here is a little bit about how the journey is going to go. So, as you know, we've designed this in like different sections. Our first section is like the intensive first round of the journey, which is done over 2 months. Then we have a practice period, which is 3 months long, which is a chance to review everything. And then for those who want it, if you want to become a coach for other men, you can do a live exam with Minka for that. She'll tell you more about that. And you don't need to decide now. You can, maybe right now you just want to do this for yourself, but maybe by the end you feel that you want to become a Tao Tantric Arts coach and become certified. So you'll have access from today for the first 3 sections. So the first part is about working with sexual energy. So understanding a bit about what sexual energy is and why we work with ejaculation mastery. We try not to say ejaculatory control. Sometimes I say it because it's easy to say, but really we're looking at mastery and choice, because the last thing we need is to put more shame there. Sometimes people it's the biggest thing I hear actually working in Tantra. People go, oh, Tantra, that's where men don't ejaculate. And it's like, wow, all this fixation on this one physical thing. It's not really the point. The point is how to move energy in a different way. And the side effect can be that you don't ejaculate as often or as much. But it's not going to be the purpose. It's going to be a side effect. The purpose is going to be about learning how to harness your energy in a new way, and that just tends to lead to what we call ejaculatory mastery or ejaculatory choice, where you can choose whether you push energy down through ejaculation or pull it up through sublimation, or circulate it, or pause it for a moment. So you just get more choice and more conscious choice and willpower, more than willpower. Like it's a skill set, as you'll see, of what to do with your sexual energy, and also why. Because we don't want any of you just of course there's like having a longer lovemaking, but there are deeper levels of why that are super important here. Not that you're just like, oh, I want to be able to say I last longer in bed, or I just want to say I've got ejaculation control, but like why? That's super important. We want to understand the difference between just not ejaculating and energetic mastery, because it's the mastery we want you to get excited about. It's the fact that everyone in culture taught us, men and women, they taught us to contract around our sexual energy and push it down to the earth. So women also do it, even though we don't have this ejaculation happening. We all have been taught to have climaxes, and a climax is when we get turned on and we contract and then we release the energy and it goes back to the earth. And that is what Hollywood and porn and society and everyone has taught you. We have learned to contract when we get aroused. And when we contract and this big energy is getting bigger, the only thing that can happen, like a water balloon, is it's going to burst and it's going to go back down. So we're deeply ingrained as men and women into patterns of contraction around our sexual energy. And what does that mean? We're actually resisting our own power. We are resisting life force. Contraction is resistance. So all of the things we think are sexual freedom, we're not free at all. We're just fighting our own power. So this is the deepest thing you're going to do on this training, is become aware of physically ingrained patterns of contracting when you get aroused. And then at some point, ejaculation has to happen, because there's nothing else that can happen. You're going to burst. This is so linked with shame and guilt, you wouldn't believe. It's unconscious in most of us. We think we're just like masturbating and having an orgasm that we want. We don't realize that we're ashamed of our own power and we're ashamed of our own arousal. And so we actually contract and then get rid of it. So there's a very deep transformation. And this is the why that I want to inspire you with, rather than like, oh, I'm going to be able to not ejaculate as quickly. You're like, yes, but why? Because you're going to transform your relationship with life force and your own power, because you're going to heal deep levels of shame and guilt, because you're going to learn how to say yes to the deep arousal of being alive, of being a human, and of letting that rise up through your system into massive levels of embodied power, true power, healthy power, the good stuff. the stuff that is really our true nature stepping into its power, not some like putting on a uniform and pretending to be powerful, but the deep embodied inner power. So this is the why around, I had to take off the screen and just get excited about this bit. This is the why around ejaculation mastery is like, it's actually life force mastery. It's actually power mastery. It's actually undoing all these patterns that we don't even notice because they're so normal. They're so normal. It's normal for women to like rub their clitoris and then climax, and it's normal for a man to like and release. It has become so normal. Nobody questions it except you because you're here. And this is what we want to transform. It's like, well, what else? What if we bring relaxation to arousal? What if we expand ourselves when we get aroused? What if we let that arousal start to flood our entire being? What happens then? And so that's where we're going with these practices. And what happens then is that often you don't ejaculate or it comes much later. But that's the side effect. The real thing is you're learning how to embody your power, learning how to embody real genuine power that comes up from the earth through our sexual energy and becomes our heart power and our spiritual power when we let it all the way up through our being. So that's about ejaculatory mastery. I won't talk that long about all the points. We'll be here for hours. So we're starting to introduce some of the techniques and the exercises. We've got introduction meditations. We've edited things as much as we can so that you can just do pieces that you want to do. Some qigong warm-ups. This is creating a space in your practice room using qigong that we really love. Setting intention through a meditation. Perineum breathing, we just did some. You're going to become very familiar with your perineum. Say that to the women on the training as well. I really invite you to also massage your perineum daily. I mean, it takes 5 minutes to get some coconut oil and just massage onto the perineum, become more aware of it, because the perineum is such an important point for men and for women in the sexual practices. Here on our teacher training, we just massaged each other's perineums. Women couldn't believe how, although it's a very arousing place, it also creates such profound spiritual openings. So, going to really connect with the perineum. For each module, you'll see there's some homework, some journaling to do, and recommended reading in there as well, if you want. And then we're going into transforming sexual energy, so self-healing tools for sexual health. We start to look at Jing, Qi, and Shen, so we're giving some of the theory and understanding around the foundation here. So we call that the three treasures. And we're looking at sexual energy, these three treasures, Jing, Qi, and Shen, as like the more physical version. And then as we refine it, it becomes more loving, forms into Qi, and Shen, it becomes the spiritual energy. So we're looking at alchemizing between heaven and earth, our sexual energy and our spiritual energy through the heart. So a bunch of different practices coming in here for sexual health and vitality. And then we have a clearing practice. And so I already mentioned that when we work with sexual energy, we're healing ancestral wounds, but also our own lifetime wounds, relationships you were in that weren't that healthy, masturbation techniques you had that weren't that healthy, like all the things that get caught in our sexual energy, which is very magnetic. We need to purify our sexual energy. So this is a clearing practice that's very powerful. And then more practices here. A little bit of information about the pelvic floor and some homework. So you can see it's going to be very embodied, very practical. And we really, although we occasionally say homework and journaling, we just encourage journaling the whole way through, because as we keep saying, it's the practices that become your teacher. So Qigong practices for sexual vitality and a guided Qigong practice. So this is like a morning practice. It's a bonus lesson, and you can do this whenever you want. So if you like to do like a yoga practice, or this is like a morning practice too, or you can do it at any time. We just love morning practice. So you've got to fit this all in your own schedule. Maybe it's just at weekends you have time. Maybe you get up early twice a week and do it. Maybe you also go to the gym and have other things. But this is just a practice that opens up your whole energy body. And it's the foundation of the Taoist arts. We don't only focus in on the testicles and the sexual energy and the self-pleasure, but we also want to open all the meridians in the whole body. So the guided Qigong practice is to keep the whole body open. Good. We go into emotions on lesson 3. So emotional alchemy is a really huge part of it. I know that when we think about sexual energy, we don't always connect them unless you've done some tantra, and then you realize that to open our sexual energy, we also have to open our emotional fluidity. So we want to let emotions be able to flow in a fluid way. We want to create lucidity around them, aka emotional intelligence, but that's also about like holding space. So in a way, our emotions in anyone's body is like our feminine, and the lucidity that's holding them and guiding them is our masculine. So we all have this inner relationship. And in the Taoist practices, they have mastery around emotions. Like I've said it before, I'm an Oxford educated psychologist. Like I trained in psychology at the highest level. And then I came to these ancient practices and I'm like, this is it. This is what we really need. We don't need to theorize about emotions. We need to understand how to let them flow and have them flow out of the negative, contracted ones that none of us like into the smooth flowing, healthy, harmonious ones that we all enjoy. And it's just when we look at it from an energetic perspective, we get all the answers. And that was really missing for me. Psychology training is we just stayed psychological with emotions. Emotions are so energetic, they're so connected to energy. And as you'll see in the Taoist understanding, whenever we're blocked, they come out like negative, the ones we don't want: frustration, anger, hatred, fear. They're all a blocked form of life force. So when we can unblock that life force, the fear transforms into feeling grounded and vulnerable, like a healthy vulnerability. The frustration and anger convert into our empowerment. The hatred transforms back into love and connection. So we are alchemizing by unblocking emotions and finding the healthy way to let them flow. This is essential before we activate more sexual energy, because sexual energy enhances everything. So if you have some anger you haven't cleared and you start to do lots of sexual practices, you can get more angry. So it's an enhancer. So we want to open up all the channels, get all the emotions smooth, and then the sexual energy flows smoothly. Not only that, but also the 5 elements are connected to sexual energy. So if we have frustration and anger in our emotional body, it will also affect our sexual energy, giving us a horniness. It's kind of a little edgy, like I need to fuck kind of energy. It's not like getting aroused and opening up. It's got this contraction around it. So all of the negative emotions directly translate. And if our heart is closed and we're feeling separation, then when our sexual energy arouses, we won't be able to connect to our partner's heart in the way that we want to. Bring us that deep union that is like the pinnacle of lovemaking, is to raise sexual energy and connect 2 hearts together. So the emotional level is absolutely essential. So we've got a whole lesson there. And then at the end of this first session, there will be a quiz and an assignment. So you've got a couple of weeks to go through that. Then we're going to start to move. Once we've purified emotions and opened up channels, then we're ready to start to move sexual energy. So we're going to look at self-pleasure and we're going to reframe it. It's going to be a reframe into meditation and practice. So away from like some guilty, under the covers, hidden, sneaky thing, or like hoping nobody's seeing while you're watching porn, and just like trying to get this energy out of the body. We're going to totally reframe it into an incredible meditation practice where you bring your body to the altar of your spiritual practice and raise your sexual energy as your offering. And we are just as some people meditate looking at a candle or chanting a mantra, we're going to meditate on our sexual energy. There's nothing more powerful to witness and observe than sexual energy in the body. So we're bringing a whole new approach to self-pleasure, and I'll be guiding some self-pleasure practices so that you can set up your space, set up your bedroom, get your oil, create your altar, burn some sage, whatever you like to do to make your sacred space, and then go into a self-pleasure ceremony. That of course you can repeat again and again. And this is a blend of this ritualistic attitude, this honoring of our body as a temple, and the practices. So moving sexual energy through all the channels that we've opened. Good, good, good. Somebody mentioned that they are trained in somatic trauma healing work, and we're going to be using somatics a lot as well. So after we've learned how to arouse our sexual energy and stay present with it, the next step is to circulate it. And so here we're starting to go into different ways to move our energy. There's a beautiful chi self massage to learn some solo practices. We're going to go into the microcosmic orbit. Mantak Chia, he always said his mission in life was to teach everyone the microcosmic orbit. That was like his grand mission. And this is about channeling the sexual energy up through the spine and down the front of the body. It can go both ways, but how to bring the sexual energy. Basically, if we look at it tantrically, it's into all the chakras. If we look at it Taoistly, it's through the microcosmic orbit. They're very, very interchangeable systems. This is about raising sexual energy up the spine. So you've heard about that in Kundalini Yoga, in Kriya Yoga, in Tantric Yoga, in classical Tantra, in Taoism. They all say the same thing for good reason. You might have heard of Kundalini energy. This is what happens when we start to move our sexual energy up. We start to reawaken this amazing energy that I think is really like the Holy Spirit. It's the energy of our soul. It's the energy of our true nature. And when that starts to awaken, sometimes it makes our body like vibrate and we can feel orgasmic without it really being sexual. So you can have an orgasm that is non-sexual, which is just our Kundalini vibrating through all of our cells and organs, and you're feeling like you're orgasming with the universe. And so this is what happens when our Kundalini awakens. We love to do all these practices. So Kundalini awakening is very smooth and gentle. There's no need for it to be a big dramatic thing that like throws your life upside down. Um, one of the reasons that we love the Taoist practices is because it's step by step, and so it's a very time-tested and gentle way to awaken Kundalini rather than like having this like huge out of control thing that can happen in some systems. And by also harnessing it through the orbit, it stops energy from just going up and getting stuck in the head, which can make people like hard to sleep, give them headaches, make their brain a bit like. So we really want to keep the energy circulating and learn how to do that so that it feels smooth and it's a whole body experience. And the spinning pearl is going to be a meditation to practice that. So next, we're going to look at conserving and cultivating sexual vitality. And vitality is such a beautiful word. It's to do with our life force, our aliveness, not only in lovemaking, but in all of our life. So we look here at the orgasmic upward draw, some of the sublimation practices. So in Tantra, we call it sublimation. In Taoism, we call it the orgasmic upward draw or the power lock. And we're going to give you different techniques of like using breath and locks, muscle locks in the body. I rolling our eyes up, tongue on the roof of the mouth. You might have heard of some of these things, but this is why, so that we can really learn how to move our sexual energy up when we want to. So there will be some practices in there for conserving sexual energy, testicle breathing, the power lock, sexual vitality, qigong, more amazing practices. And you might have seen these things in books, but here you're going to get the transmission and the practice for all of them. Good. And then there's a quiz at the end. The sexual reflexology and genital massage comes in next. So the genitals, just like the foot and the hands, are connected to all the organs, so are our genitals, and they beautifully fit together with female genitals as well. So for example, the very tip of the lingam is connected to the cervix and the higher centers and the crown. And so when this is in connection with a woman's cervix, energetically, we can open our hearts and crowns. There's a very potent place for sublimation, but around the root of the lingam and the opening of the yonis where there's more fear and trauma. So we've literally got like the whole energetic body also in the genitals. So we're learning how to do de-armoring and healing of our own bodies, as well as understanding that that applies to our women's bodies. You could you could be practicing any kind of sexual orientation. The working with female or male masculine energy could be through anybody. So same gendered partners can also do these practices. They just need to refer everything across. Usually in a same gendered couple, one runs more masculine energy, one runs more feminine energy. So just to mention that these practices can all be adapted. I'm just mostly referring to male and female bodies. So we're going into the dragon's pearls massage here, sexual reflexology, and then also a little bit about working with herbs, building jing. So we learn about nourishing sexual energy. You know, the modern concept is things like Viagra, which is like squeezing energy out where it doesn't exist and ultimately depleting ourselves. The same with using porn or fantasy. It's all like mind driven and forcing energy and ultimately depleting us again. Something beautiful about Taoist practices is like accessing this energy from source, which actually is nature. It's the biggest aphrodisiac we have is Mother Nature, but learning how to get that energy up through our kidneys, which you may not have thought of as a very sexy, but they are the the parent of the sexual energy. So when we can source this deep yin energy from nature and then feed that vitality into our sexual organs, that's when we get a really strong sexual vitality. So this is a huge part of the practices. And then some grounding practices, chi weightlifting, dragon stretches its tongue, lots of great practices here. And then embracing the tree, which is a qigong practice, which really is for helping to harness power and potency. Exciting stuff. Lesson 9 is about sublimation, desire, fantasy, and porn addiction. So here we're going to look at the projection of desire that happens and what that is without shaming it, but just seeing how we give away our desire to something external and how to reharness it within our body, how to use somatic work to come to the source of desire rather than the projection of it, and then being able to work with the energy that's there because all desire is full of energy. That's why the whole commercial world uses desire all the time. There's so much energy there. But we're taught to spend our energy outwards to project it onto the woman or onto the chocolate bar or onto the new car or whatever. And so in these practices, we want to actually embody them and find the source within ourselves and work with the energy from there. So there's a practice there, fantasy sublimation. So you can use porn or a fantasy to activate energy and then go into inner practices. So that's about fantasy. And it's really about also coming out of the head and into the body. Yeah. So that's that class. Then we're going to talk about, then you have prepared yourself so magnificently. You want to talk about what about sharing this with a partner, right? So that's our next lesson, energy exchange with a partner. So stairway to bliss. So we start to talk about making love, and the stairway to bliss is different ways to cultivate energy through the act of lovemaking, how to cultivate, integrate, what that means, and how our sexual practices fit in, how we use breath work, how we use all these different techniques in lovemaking. Predominantly in the Taoist practices, it's the deepest level of practice is solo for men and for women. So even if you're in a long-term couple relationship, you go in separate rooms or at separate times. The woman's doing her breast massage and her yoni squeeze. She's doing her practices, and the man is doing his. He's doing his self-pleasure and his circulation. It's like you are preparing your own channels and your own sexual energy so that when you make love, you can be more freeform. You don't want to be too clinical when you're making love, right? Like now pause and now pull up the energy and now do this. You want to be prepared. So we can practice in a different way on our own, but then we want to know how do we apply this into lovemaking. So here we're going into ways to build energy over a period of lovemaking, the stairway to bliss. Harmonious exchange is about different places in our energy body that we can exchange energy through and how to do that. The arts of the bedchamber is really covering, we're looking at like polarity, moving energies in different ways. Yeah, and then there's meditation so that before you even go and make love with a person, you can really visualize divine lovemaking. So we're starting to prepare the energy body for tantric lovemaking before the physical body goes into it. So it's like a rehearsal. Um, and I threw in this bonus class, The Secrets of a Woman's Body, that even she might not know. This is actually from our women's training, where I'm teaching women about their pleasure anatomy. So this is crucial information because like I say here, even women don't know. So most women are taught that their main route to orgasm is the clitoris, right? You might have heard that too. But the clitoris always leads to a climax at its or frustration, but it's like you just kind of rub it and the energy builds and leaves the body. And we want to know, how can a woman have vaginal orgasms? Don't you want to know that? Yes, you do. And um, this is really about like how to prepare a woman's body that penetration is amazing for her, absolutely amazing, because many women don't enjoy penetration. They kind of put up with it and wait for their clitoral orgasm to come along. But it doesn't have to be like that. That's not the greatest fun for both partners. The greatest fun for both partners is when it's totally incredible for both of you at the same time. It's not like you have your bit and then give me my bit and then everybody's like, okay. It's not a transactional, it's not the highest fulfillment. The highest fulfillment is, how do you prepare a woman's body that all of her perineal sponge, her urethral sponge, her vestibular bulbs are all puffed up, and so um, her tissues can also swell, just as a man can have a hard on, so can a woman, but most women don't even know that can happen. So we want to get her erectile tissue all big and puffy, as well as your erectile tissue, because that's when the magic happens. Then penetrative sex is incredibly pleasurable, much more pleasurable for the man as well as for the woman. Vaginal orgasms are possible, G-spot orgasms, A-spot orgasms, cervical orgasms, all these incredible portals of bliss that become part of your spiritual practice as well. What could be better than that? So that's a bonus class. And a cord cutting practice as well. Those two things are coming together, being able to release from the past anything that we need to clear. Good. And polarity in relationships, here it is. So we're coming a little bit more into masculine and feminine energy and how they play together. Some more practices in there, the water wheel, the wand of light, and a class on polarity in the Tao. So this is a class you won't find many places, as far as I can see. It's a lot of wisdom that I learned when I was at Mantak Chia's place from a Taoist scholar from university who sat and had a tea ceremony with me and explained the whole I Ching and polarity in such a magnificent way. So that's what that class is all about. It's understanding polarity, not just theoretically, but you're going to see there's a mathematical formula coming from hexagrams and trigrams. So it comes from the I Ching. It's a very ancient. So it's not just like, oh, men should be like this and women should be like that. This is way more interesting. It's working with these trigrams that show different versions of masculine and feminine energy and their evolution as well, from the more personal level to the transpersonal level. So we look at relationship as an evolution and polarity transforming within it. I think it's fascinating stuff, but also it's how we keep our spark alive, is learning how to play with polarity and master it. Good. More about lovemaking and holding space in relationships. So a little bit about, you know, the masculine to the feminine here as well. Yes, and I know we have some partners here of women who've done our training, so they're very happy you're here. They're gonna love when you reach lesson 11. In fact, they'll love when you're at 10 because they'll have had all that lovely lovemaking with you, and then you're going to hold space for them for everything that cracked open. Good. And so we're starting to then at the end, we're looking at spirituality. I mean, this can happen from the beginning. You can have a spiritual experience with, with any of these techniques and methods, but we want to really understand it even more. Like, how is sexuality part of a spiritual practice? Is that just an excuse? Is it just about playing sitar music and lighting candles while we make love? Or is there a genuine path to spirituality? We believe there is. We're going to share about moving from our karma to our dharma, from our small self to our higher self, alchemizing yin and yang in all kinds of new ways to become more whole, more authentic, more complete, transcending duality, but also remaining living in it. And so this is, really looking at the spiritual levels. And this can be very interesting for those of you who are already deep into spirituality in one path or another, because many spiritual paths embrace the non-duality. We're heading towards this Buddhahood, but they don't help you to deal with the duality that remains? How do I still relate and live in a dualistic world when I've discovered that everything is oneness? So we're really, this is a beauty of the Tao and Tantra, that there is a oneness, but there is still a duality, and we learn how to move within it all and have beautiful spiritual experiences through lovemaking and self-pleasure. What could be better than that?